Hello, welcome everybody. It's Holger Mueller here from Constellation Research, joining for an almost quarterly tradition, Martin Fischer from Bridging IT. Hi Martin, how are you?
Hi Holger, nice to meet you again, and I'm pretty good, thanks. And you?
Can't complain. It's still nice and warm here in San Diego. How are things over in Germany, in Stuttgart?
Today a bit more rainy. Yesterday we had a beautiful sunny autumn day. The vineyards are very colorful at the moment behind me, so just 1 kilometer away. So that's a nice autumn, even in those not that normal times.
Yeah, and when will ice wine season start?
I'm not that sure. I didn't see any grapes left on the vineyard, so I think they harvested all already.
For our listeners and watchers who don't come from a wine region, ice wine is wine which is picked when it's frozen before sunrise, typically, right? So you have to leave the grapes on. This is why Martin is saying that there's no grapes left. So it doesn't look good for ice wine from your vineyard locally then.
Yeah, maybe it's because I'm usually running there in the morning just after 6, and there it's already dark or still dark here in Germany. So that means I might oversee the grapes if there are some left, but most of them are gone.
All right, shall we keep talking about winemaking, or shall we talk about our favorite software company for this podcast video? Start with an S, ends with a P, or?
Maybe we should do another podcast series about whatever wine and beer and what local food. No, I think yeah, we arranged our session today again to talk about SAP, and I take the chance to welcome all Coffee Corner Radio podcast listeners as well. As usual, as also kind of a tradition already that we do it via YouTube and via podcast today. And yeah, we are already live, and we will be on your favorite podcast player within the next couple of days for sure.
Excellent. So SAP, warning, right? warning, never a good news. What happened?
Yeah, SAP announced their quarterly numbers, and they were quite disappointing.
Well, they had to warn, right? They were not delivering to guidance. They had to warn about their numbers, right? And largely the culprit from looking and going through them and commentating on the press is, surprise, surprise, people do not travel, and that has an effect on Concur revenues. Yep.
Yeah, but I think Corona and the whole situation right now is again not the real reason. The reasons are from the pre-Corona time. I'm quite sure. I think all people who are more into the technology and product portfolio of SAP, and not only into the stock market and numbers, are not surprised that there is a warning from SAP. So I wasn't, at least. I was always a bit surprised about the good numbers within the last years already, and especially about the stock market itself, because it was kind of crazy what happened there in the last year, last 6 to 8 months, in my opinion, at least. I mean, I can understand that for all companies who are offering collaboration software like Microsoft does with Office 365 or Zoom or whoever, but SAP is not really a player in this game. So the collaboration software from SAP was usually not the stuff I'd like to use, at least.
Well, they have Jam, right? So, and then Jam is now finding a second wind, right? So there's the work portal. I don't know if that's the right name, right? Which is coming out of part of integration, right? So
WorkZone is the
WorkZone. Thank you, Martin. Yeah, WorkZone is having a jamming comeback, or jam comeback, right? Which is interesting. The former Cube tree from 10 plus years ago, still living live and well. But yeah, I agree. SAP can't make it up with future of work, like changing of work site, people work from home kind of things. But the interesting thing is the mix, right? So on one side, SAP has cloud offerings and on-premise offerings. And the on-premise revenue, which I was really surprised, was very strong. Yeah, so the traditional way how on-premise revenue is being sold by sales reps visiting people, inviting them to the golf tournament, the SAP sponsored whatever events and so on, all that didn't happen. So I think it's quite remarkable that revenue stayed stable, because you would think that could be revenue which with Corona is a little more endangered, right? So interesting enough. Yep.
Yeah, but so in my daily work, I'm working for consultant company, IT consultant company, and I mean the customers also
IT,
have
right?
to
Bridging IT.
yeah, bridging IT,
Yeah.
right? Might
It's
not be that.
so we're not making anything secret here, right? So
Yeah, no, it's written there, but most probably not everybody knows what we are doing, and yeah, we see we see that customers need to adapt their sales process as well. So you can't rely on the conferences or the lunch and dinner invitations which we had in the past, maybe, because it's just not possible. So yeah.
But nonetheless, the on-premise revenue has been stable, right? And I think the background there is it's established relationships, they're known, and talking to customers, and I'll generally explain this to you. There's 3 segments of companies in this post-pandemic world, right? There's the super busy ones. If they need licenses, hospitals, and so on, they will just buy them, right? And they find a way to implement because they're essential business, right? Then there's the stutterers, which go back and forward on open, right? Now Germany has gone into a partial lockdown, and it's federally the same, right? Most of the countries, and before in Germany, it was different what you could do when and there. So they're on, off in different places, different regions. And then there's the sidelined ones, right? The sidelined ones, like the airlines, as an example, or the cruise companies, or the tourist business, that they cannot provide any license revenue for that. And I think that's the main reason for that something West and why SAP had to warn, because they missed 400 million of Concur revenue, which is not a surprise, right? So it's interesting that they only warned so late and only managed about that now. And maybe there was the hope that they could make it up and report, yeah, we lost in Concur, but we gained in other areas, and that did not happen. I think so. The big news is the cloud revenue did not accelerate to the point to make up for other cloud revenue on the Concur side. So that's the interesting part, I think.
Oh, of course, that as well. And I think there was another maybe quite shocking message for the stock market. And I mean the exchange rate on the stock market went that much down, because I think there is so much uncertainty again because of COVID. It was just not a good timing. I guess otherwise a month or 2 ago there wouldn't have been 20% or more. That wouldn't have been that kind of shock as we saw it now. But on the other hand, there was a message which was which caused some echo in the German press, at least. Most of them, I would say they focus rather on the shareholders. They said, okay, it's shocking that SAP says we will not commit to our goals or to our numbers, which we announced, or Bill announced, I guess 2 years ago, with the revenue target.
Okay, I know what you mean, right? So the cloud ambition, right? How much cloud revenue would be, but I mean, that was not a surprise and shocking thing in my view, is because only a consequence of missing those numbers, right? If you miss 400 million of cloud revenue in the ambition where they want to do, it will be a delay, right? And kudos to them to keep that apart and showing, okay, we took this hit, but the key thing to take away is, like, there's no buffer in that plan. This is an ambitious plan with no room. So if anything else happens in that, whoever what might be, right, it will delay that ambition again, right? So, but that's fair enough in my view, and that's only a consequence of mentioning that, I think. But the question is really, like, why have the SAP Cloud products and the other segments not been able to make it up?
That's right. And one thing Christian Klein said, at least that's what was my understanding, at somebody who has a rather technology look on SAP, is that one reason for not committing to that goals anymore and to the numbers announced earlier is that they have to do their homework in the cloud area. And I think that's something, I mean, if you're close to the SAP ecosphere, maybe DSAG or other user groups, you are not surprised about that message.
Right.
Because many customers complain. But I think the general press or the broader community or they didn't have that in mind, that there are problems with products within the SAP product portfolio. So I mean,
it might be also saying that some of the products might take a little longer, right? Which also not a surprise, right? Because the big agenda really is, and they fail to talk about, is the integration. That's what customers wanted, right? So, and the integration work takes time, takes away from functionality, takes away from new capabilities, which might be important for cloud. But I think it's the right priority because that's what customers want for a long time. SAP is known for integrated applications, integration, especially between SAP Core, S/4HANA, or the Business Suite, and the successors has been non-existing to weak, right? And fixing this is a Herculean effort, which we're going to take SAP also in 2021 from their roadmap, right? They need to reissue the roadmap and show that they deliver to it. That would be important to see.
And on the other hand, what's often forgotten in public is that integration topic is a very big topic for the internal cloud costs, for the costs they have now in their own data centers, or they pay to the hyperscalers or whatever. In the past, SAP just didn't need to care about hardware or infrastructure consumption. I guess if the cloud would have been already that big topic when HANA was released, I think it would look differently.
Fair enough, right? And it's a huge lesson learned for traditional vendors who had all this hidden cost on the customer side from a hardware, from a management perspective. If all of a sudden they have to own that and they need to run that, right? And that's what's happening, and that's always a push for more automation, right? So, but that's good to see.
Yeah, but that's for sure. Yeah.
The lesson learned is SAP is on a no buffer plan in its cloud ambition, and if something happens to the no buffer plan, right? We both are athletes, right? You have a training plan for a race coming up, and for whatever reason you're sick, work or whatever, you miss 2 weeks. I mean, you might have slack in your plan, right? But I think it's a no slack, no buffer plan, and then you cannot make it up, right? You have to adjust your goals, and that's what's happening. Right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the underlying thing I think SAP is doing is fundamentally right. The question is, can they do it fast enough? Right? Can they grow the cloud revenue? Because the on-premise revenue will inevitably go down at some point, right? So that's what they even want from that part. Will they be able to transform that and doing this? Well, customers, that's my major concern, is companies have to implement software differently now. And they have not figured this out, right? 50 years of implementing standard software in the project room, in the glass room, right? With everybody else being around, pulling people in, out, asking questions. That doesn't work like this anymore, right? So it's going to be interesting when the first go lives will happen in the ERP space in general, where companies started implementing during Corona and went live during Corona and figured out a way of working like this, right? And it will be a big thing on the consulting companies to figure out, well, here's the remote implementation model, right? This is how we do things, how we check in things, how we connect things, how we organize this differently, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see.
Definitely. I also thought, and actually, something I'm on the other hand was a bit surprised that the on-prem numbers are not bad, at least. That there was, still S/4HANA on-prem sales going on during that time, and usually that will keep customers busy for more than a year. I think, at least if I think at the bigger SAP customers here in Germany, that's nothing which you could do just within 2 or 3 months. At least if you do it in a way that it makes sense from a TCO reduction kind of view, or adding functionality, not just doing a technical conversion. And so the last weeks, with that uncertainty, how long we will have that pandemic and all that kind of stuff, I think it's also maybe an accelerator to think about different ERP implementation models, maybe.
The best practices are changing, right? So it has to be happening differently. And I think there will be a slow start to work depending on when the vaccine shows up and so on. And every day we're working in this new normal, whatever, I hate the term, but the more likely it is new best practice will erupt, and we won't go back to the old ones. But I don't think
that's for sure. And actually, what I meant is, so we have now a time of uncertainty. Nobody knows how long we will stay in this situation, which we have with that uncertainty, and it takes a lot of time to slice that elephant, call it S4HANA at the moment. And maybe with that new integration effort SAP is doing right now, for example, with the one, how is it called? One common data model. This might be the way to do it rather in the old world we would have said module by module, and cut the whole project in different pieces. Right now often companies don't have a real choice, but they need to do a big bang approach, because all, and that's the downside of the integration, all is integrated, and you need to have that proper versioning, and if the data model does not fit together between S4 and the old business suite, that's often the reason why you can't.
Interesting. I see it a little differently. I think the big bang is going to come back because it's easier to make the big bang from adopting new best practices than going piecemeal step by step and reintegrating everything. And my main concern there is reintegrating means always communication, talking to people and retesting things. And that is extra, it's always expensive, but I think it's extra expensive with people working remotely, right? So I can be wrong, happy to be wrong, but I think the big bang, just give me the best practice of S4HANA. If they're good enough, I implement it as it is, right, with as little time to go live. I think that will have a return, right? So that return will happen for the first time. Never had a return, right? The Big Bang was always a multi-year effort and so on.
Yeah, that's the thing which keeps me thinking, that multi-year effort, because of the uncertainty and the big investment which you need to bring as a company. If you are able to do it in a shorter time, and you're talking maybe about 1 year instead of 2 or 3, to be realistic, I still think it's not possible within 6 months, depending on the landscape, of course, and of course of.
But think about the segments, right, Martin? The super busy ones, right? They have to operate what they have, and they have to run, no question. But the stutterers might be an IT infrastructure, and the sidelined ones might be an IT infrastructure, which does not make sense, right? We have an airline customer who used the mainframe, and the mainframe was fine as long as the airline was flying. It was 1 or 2% of IT costs and did a good job. Now it's 10-20% of IT costs related to revenue, and it's the wrong platform. So they have to move off. Every day they're burning money. And then when that happens to the company, you're ready to compromise, you're ready to take something as it is. You might change the whole platform, right? So for some segments, not, but you cannot, if you're in a stutterer on, off, and you have the wrong software, or if you have to realign the whole cost structure of your enterprise, you have to take something out of the box quickly, because you're losing money every day sitting on the wrong CapEx infrastructure.
Yeah, that's right. So we will see.
We will speculate about the future. Who knows, right? So we will see. But the one thing I know is every day we're operating longer like this, companies will figure out something, and best practices are changing, right? The really big surprise is, like 2 years ago at our conference, which we had last week, I asked a panel of CHROs, of people leaders, is like, as a mental model, for any reason, you would have to work completely remote for the whole company, right? Because 2 years ago, there was discussion, can we work remote? How much remote work is right? How do people get a feeling of belonging, don't feel disenfranchised, and all these questions. And Yahoo and IBM were using it to get rid of people because they forced them to move to certain offices, and people were used to work at home and so on. So, and all of them said, oh, it's impossible. And I say, okay, quantify the productivity. It was 20-30%. Now, if you look for companies who are busy and working, they deliver the same numbers with people working from home, with a lot of work and a price to pay and so on of everybody involved, right? But it's fascinating to me that this was deemed impossible by all the experts, is now working actually pretty well from a pure numbers perspective, right? Lots of personal stress and so on, no question.
There are pros and cons, but the bottom line for me, as I'm working now since more than 6 or 7 months from home, it works somehow. So, and I think we are not less efficient. It's different. So you have more disturbance by family, but less by colleagues.
Right, exactly. Humans are extremely adaptable. Extremely adaptable. This is how we survived for so long, right? So little bit working from home instead of driving to the office, finding the parking, eating bad food or whatever, right? So yeah, look at that. It's fascinating. All right, back to SAP. What else do we have with SAP? What else has happened? What do we want to talk about?
There was a DSHE annual conference, digital virtual replacement, which was called the DSHE Live. Was of course online virtual format, and the keynotes are publicly available, at least for the Coffee Corner Radio. I will link them to our show notes, so that you can find them on YouTube. Then there was I think it's a big shift towards the user groups, or we see a big shift towards the user groups from SAP with the new board, almost. Yeah, at least the three German guys were all present. So Christian Klein, Thomas Sauer, Essig, and Jürgen Müller doing keynotes. And I'm also engaged in the DSHE. You can really see that there is a close collaboration happening right now, and they really start to listen. That's something which I think is very positive. On the other hand, I'm sometimes a bit surprised what happened with the announced partnerships with the hyperscalers on the one hand side, and on the other hand, with that open data initiative by Microsoft, Adobe, and SAP, which was announced 2 years ago.
That was a previous CEO who did this. I don't know what that is about.
Yeah. Who did that?
That's a great lesson learned where you as an enterprise software watcher have to put things into content and context. And Adobe, Microsoft, SAP wanted to have some big news and wanted to fight against Salesforce. Right before Salesforce user conference came that announcements, or during even, and it didn't help really in the market. They did not deliver anything. There's no talk about it anymore. I think it's somewhere in the announcement of good ideas which never got executed cemetery.
Yeah, and to be honest, from AWS or Google, I also hear nothing about that partnership from with SAP.
There's some I get because I'm obviously interested. I get regular updates from AWS, from Microsoft, from SAP, from Google about how well they can host and run and operate SAP products, right? And
yeah, Microsoft is quite busy here in Germany with putting out that messages, and also about integration on application layer. And there was also one interesting thing. There was an interview even before our last session in May with Christian Klein with Diginomica, where he said SAP needs to own the application layer. I'm not that sure if Microsoft did like that message.
It was a mixed partnership there, right? So they will share whatever applications their customers choose, right? That was the whole idea. You can choose what you want to do. Adobe has their marketing suite as well, right? So that Adobe and Microsoft are partnering to say an successful partnership very well on the CRM side, because Microsoft CRM is weak on the marketing side, and that's Adobe's push and has a creative license, right? So it doesn't mean that there's overlap, that they don't work so well, and I think they're not even paying attention. It's not working, and they're not investing the R&D and resources into it, and I think it's on the graveyard of announcements.
I'm not that sure. I mean, with the OData standard products of Microsoft and SAP.
OData not, right? OData not, but the integrated offering out of the box with vendor integrated support between
they didn't.
SAP, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I fully agree.
But they never said that. Right? Customers want vendor-based integration, right? They want the vendor to say, I'm certified my interface with this other partner product, and it works out of the box. Yep.
I'm not that sure in that cloudy times right now with PaaS offerings. I guess also companies want to have open APIs which they can use for integration and build their own UI layer to combine services of different vendors and kind of the
if they have to, right? If they have to, right? This is the craftsman approach to it. If there's enough customers or partners between two software vendors, right? I want an out-of-the-box integration. Right?
That's okay, yeah.
If you vendor, you own this. I might even pay for it. And if you upgrade something and something upgrades here and I configure that correctly, it automatically always works. I don't want to have to worry about this, right? If that's not there, then of course, luckily there's a PaaS layer. You can integrate what you want. But companies are really getting integration fatigue because they're realizing it's easy to build it once, but then you're sitting on this kind of like earthquake-like situation where vendors upgrade so much faster in the cloud. So it's really, really hard to stay on top of that. So,
yeah, I guess with the API approach, you are a bit better in control on your own. So because you maybe do not need to update to the latest version of the API if they do it good. At least.
The problem is that the public APIs are not really so public and available and stable, right? So this is why the situation is like, you figure it out. If you guys change something, do whatever you want. I don't need to know your public or not public API. It just keeps working, right? So that's what enterprise want. I don't want to have a disruption because of a mixed portfolio, because of some integration strategy. And if I can avoid of owning that, especially in the current times where integration with different people doing remotely testing and so on is a nightmare to coordinate, the better, right? So, and I think the hyperscaler will also see a comeback because companies need to reduce their capex, right? All these office buildings which are empty. What a stupid idea, right? So, I mean, if Apple investors could go back, that Apple campus it's empty, right? The Salesforce tower sits empty, right? And you can keep going with headquarter investments all over the world, right? So if you could sell your headquarter right now because you might not be coming back, might be a good idea. And the same thing is valid for all the servers you have, all your data centers infrastructure. And the goal is you have to tie that cost to your business performance. If you use more, you pay more. If you use less, you pay less, right? And that's what the cloud offers. So I think the hyperscalers, I like the term because it comes from a strange analyst company with the gardening or something, right? So I never use hyperscaler. So cloud providers, right? The cloud providers offer exactly that. So I think if this keeps going for a little longer, let's hope the vaccine is going to be great and works. But if the vaccine does not work great, and we're going to have, like, say, assume for a moment, I don't hope that a full 2021 in semi-lockdown wave riding mode and so on, you will see a significant, my prediction here, a significant adoption of enterprise applications on public cloud to have this flexibility in the CapEx.
That's I fully agree with that. By the way, our rents are going down in Silicon Valley right now?
Yes, for commercial real estate, definitely. But even more.
No, I meant for private.
Yeah, for private, they're going down significantly. It's the first time it's going down because people are moving out. Right, the fires which Silicon Valley had to endure, the Bay Area had to endure, didn't surely help. But people are working remotely now from Colorado, from other places, right? And the longer this goes, and if they like where they are, they may not come back, right? So, and it was Twitter and Facebook, a few of them have said they will never force people to come back.
Yeah, Facebook said that, I think. But Apple was always quite strict in keeping the people in the office because it's all top secret.
You can't argue this anymore, right? If people deliver this and they save, especially in Silicon Valley with terrible traffic, 2 hours of their daily life for not commuting there, and they might work some of the time, it's kind of like a no-brainer if it's productive for an enterprise to let people work from home, right? So the whole work from home discussion is over. I think that's the biggest future of work change of COVID.
Yeah, I hope that we will that will be kept after that COVID thing in the consultancy area as well.
but consultancy had that too, right? Because how many consultants would go to an office on Friday when they would be home? No, they would work from home typically, right? So consulting has been nomadic anyway already, right? If you just work from your customer or work from your hotel or work from your home, what's the difference from that, right? It's the human interaction which changes the consulting business. All right, what else do we have with SAP?
Just one last thing regarding that application layer owning topic I just mentioned. My personal opinion is that SAP is not owning anymore the application layer in many companies. So they are owning it maybe in the core ERP area, but if you look on the analytics stacks, HR, other product, SAP is not in that position anymore. It used to be 10 years ago or maybe 15.
Yeah, I don't like this categorization, systems of record, systems of experience, and so on. That everything has to be a good system of experience, right? You have to have a user experience. But I think SAP holds the system of record crown. And as long as you hold the system of record crown and all key records come into you, you are an application layer. You might not be 100%, you might not be perfect, but you're the key thing, right? So, and that's often getting forgotten, right? I always joke. I mean, I love CRM, come from the CRM space, right? But nothing in the real world happens if something happens in CRM, right? If sales rep creates a customer, that customer will never get anything shipped, invoiced if it's not interfaced over to an ERP system, right? The sales rep creates an opportunity, nothing happens in your forecasting and so on if that might be happening. The sales rep creates an order, nothing happens, right? So until the order is processed on an execution manufacturing system. Hey, the sales rep doesn't even get his commission paid. so CRM is the incarnation of the incompetence of the ERP vendors to allow a system which takes so much share away from them without creating significant value, right? And then don't let me start it. We can do a whole podcast about there's no innovation in CRM anymore. It's the same thing happening like since 20 years. It's super frustrating. Yeah, but as long as SAP has a system of record crown, SAP owns a part and the relevant part of the application layer. Yeah.
That's right. I fully agree with that one. But the things around in former times with R3, they called it the satellites. They are not owned by SAP anymore, at least not all of them. But
you can argue that for Ariba is doing really, really well, right? From a purchasing perspective, as an example, right? Field Glass, fine, different story there. Concur has been doing really, really well in spend management. Hey, they have a new president now to run this, right? The second time around of John Wookie, my former boss at Oracle, second time at SAP, and going to that area. I think it's a great hire, experienced manager to potentially bring those closer together and enable this vision of enterprise spend, right? And then we have success factors, yeah, which is good enough, great, but good enough certainly, or good. Who am I missing? Yeah, the only really area is the CRM area, which they don't even want to call CRM, but still call it CX, which is a misnomer to my part. You can't be in a market if you don't call it what the market is called.
Yeah, but actually, that's a good topic. Last week, there was CX Live. Did you follow the news a bit?
Yeah, a little.
Of course, you did.
Pre-briefed and so on, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was quite silent around this area within the last year. You might have heard that Bob Stutz is his.
Came back. Right? People are coming to SAP the second time. I'm beyond that. I've been there the second time and I left, right? So up on me, right? So Bob Stutz is there for a second time. We mentioned John Wookie is there for a second time. I have a lot of respect for Bob Stutz. He really got the CRM going in the early 2000s there. But there is a strategic void where SAP doesn't know how much they should invest and do there. And in my personal view, if you don't know what the customer is doing, even if you hold the system of record crown, you're in a dangerous situation. And the time is very good because the market leader Salesforce does not deliver much of thought leadership, right? And that's the problem of the whole enterprise space, right? The whole problem of the enterprise space is that we live in this area where technology for the first time can do more than what traditional business best practice want to happen, right? And that means companies have to experiment, want to do new things. That means the old best practices are no longer the best practice for the 21st century. And that is anathema, that is deadly, that's killing any standard software vendor who wants to build it once, and then thousands of customers should use it. But if I don't know what to build, right, and I think we mentioned this every podcast here because I love the statement so much from Hasso last year. He said, it was so easy to build R2, right? During the day, I sat next to the finance director of ICI, that was SAP's first launch customer, lighthouse customer, you would say today, and he would show me how he does work, and then I would program it at night on their mainframe when it wasn't busy, right? So this translation process, show me how you work, and then I make the best thing working in the business process. That doesn't work anymore because all of a sudden the technology is no longer compromised. The technology can do more. And that is really, really the problem. And Salesforce is not stepping up to that vision, right? Anybody who will step up to that vision will be there. Salesforce is doing a proven strategy and then double down on platform, right? They're buying Tableau, buying MuleSoft, now they say Customer 360, which is a concept from 100 years ago, from the 90s, Customer 360. And customers love it. It's amazing to me what's happening in CRM. And for SAP, they had this full court press. They had too many bosses there. Christian was there. Thomas was there. Bob was there. Forgot the lady who does sales for it. So everybody was jumping over each other in an analyst briefing 30 minutes, how important CRM is or CX is. And well, they have to show and deliver something there. So that's going to be the key point.
Yeah. But at least they revealed now kind of a strategy. So after silence for about a year, so I thought they gave up already, but that didn't fit.
What's the strategy?
At least they announced a new product, that customer data hub. Oh, how was it called? Data. I have to check my notes. Where did I put the link?
So back to the platform, right? So build the basic plumbing. Everybody can build platforms, and everybody is building platforms right now. But the benefit, the stickiness, the application layer comes from understanding the business best practice, enabling those business best practices.
Yeah. So it's called Customer Data Platform. So that what they are.
Oh, that's a great name. That's the industry category. So at least they don't stick to something else, right? So there's a lot of talk about the customer data platform, right? So but the question is, what happens in the customer data platform as a value-added part for managing customer data, which is of course important. But again, where is the real system of record for customer data? Right? Is the customer data
ERP
platform
backend.
ERP system, right?
In the ERP backend.
Yeah. Well,
and now we are back with SAP. So
but you can always create a new platform, and the customer data is important. Privacy, updating, looking at different ways, having a right model which doesn't break, and so on. But if there's no value add, why a company needs to have that platform, it's going to be hard to sell it, right? Because what's it going to do, right? It's going to do all the personalization that it says, oh, hi, Martin, coming back to the platform. Well, we know the answer to this is that all information should be in data lakes anyway and accessible for everybody, right? So when somebody calls, hey, Martin, why haven't you paid in collections, which again, ERP, knows the history, knows that you were just on the website, knows whatever, right? So you can't keep the customer data away from other areas. So I'm skeptical, but the biggest thing for SAP is start calling it CRM again.
Did they?
No, I don't. They call it CX.
Of course not. But maybe we will see.
It's like calling ERP customer satisfaction software. Because ultimately it's important that your customers are satisfied, and a good ERP solution creates customer satisfaction. It's not about the outcome, right? The outcomes are important, right? So CX, a good customer experience is the outcome, but you do it with good CRM.
That's right. I fully agree with you.
I think it was a smart, interesting strategy from the previous CEO, from Bill McDermott. That's how I read it, right? He bought Hybris. He thought, I'm going to overtake Salesforce with e-commerce, right? He's on the board, and they actually disengaged on software. I don't know if you saw it, right? Of Under Armour. Under Armour made like all the sport guys bought their software things, and they sold it off again at a loss, right? Not sure if Bill is still on the board there. But he was enamored, literally, with the capabilities of selling e-commerce, which Under Armour does, right? Or any high, fast-moving consumer good with web presence does. And thought, hey, I'm going to overtake Salesforce there. And Salesforce hadn't acquired yet Commerce something, I forgot the name, I'm coming CRM full time, right? So that was a good idea. And then you can call it CX temporarily, but you can't stick to CX 10 years later. Your customers have sales reps, have service technicians, and so on, and all that runs under CRM. So it looks like a big misunderstanding. Well, okay.
So why not calling it C4HANA?
Well, is it called like this?
Yeah, we will see name changes for sure.
I'm not happy of the C4HANA thing. I fought it in advisory and feedback, and so look, the chance of SAP is to bring it all together. Why is there a C4HANA, right? Why is there?
Is it still called like that?
I have no idea. Like I said, I don't cover it necessarily. But then I was joking 2 years ago with Rob Enslin, who was still there, and so on. So who is P for HANA? Is P for HANA people for HANA, or is it procurement for HANA, right? Who got the P?
So Ariba is finally called.
Ariba P for HANA successful. So there's a whole battle for the letters going on, which didn't happen, right? So that fragmentation doesn't make sense. I think the opportunity for SAP is to redefine, back to CX or CRM, is redefine CRM being an ERP vendor. That has never happened in the whole industry. Oracle hasn't done this. Who else could have done it? Info hasn't done it. They all tried to copy Salesforce. And if you copy Salesforce, you don't come up with something really differentiated and something, we're back at our initial topic, something really integrated, which companies want, right? Because the faster I know I can ship, build this, deliver this, the customer wants to know when they're going to get this and so on. The more tighter the integration is with your execution systems, the better is the customer experience.
That's right. I fully agree with that. So let's switch to another topic.
Okay.
So actually, we would be right in the middle of Ticket season in a normal year.
Right.
Ticket will be in December 8th to 10th. But you can't register yet, so I'm still a bit confused.
Maybe they're changing the registration system after the issues they had at Sapphire. So.
I'm quite sure that they change the whole system.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some lessons they learned during the year, I'm sure. Yeah. Are you expecting anything? Any big announcements?
Yeah, I think this is Jürgen Mueller's show, and the stuff has to happen on the platform, right? And the battle, we said it, Salesforce are all a platform company. They do more revenue on platform than in their applications, the single applications and so on. So I think I expect things around the work zone, things around integration, things around low code, no code, which is an area which SAP has been blank so far, but super important for their business, for their customers. So there's lots of things, lots of directions they can go. And they should go and strengthen the platform part, right? And platform pass, I would always joke, like, how many times will McDermott going to say pass, right? The good news is now Christian talks about the platform and the importance of the platform, right? So, and to build this platform, and you mentioned that, right? The multiple cloud providers, that this platform runs across the multiple clouds, and I can move my code assets because a customer might be running SAP on AWS in North America and Azure in Europe, right? And how do I have one dashboard? How do I see things? That's where the value is. That's where the differentiation is. And we'll see. I hope we see more of that at TechEd.
I'm actually wondering if how they will position the cloud platform in the general market. So last year we saw that repositioning as a business technology platform, which is for me at least in the core SAP Cloud Platform. And of course, it's an integration platform for all SAP products. That actually makes a lot of sense. But I'm still not that sure if SAP should miss the whole past story. So if SAP would manage to offer the business technology platform for a more general enterprise software approach, let's say, so not only for SAP customers, but offering services which are useful to integrate in my Azure or AWS or whatever application, that would make sense for me. Also, in regards to the competition for talents, for example. So SAP is still very unsexy for young talents at universities. And one reason for me is, of course, one reason is ABAP, because it's old-fashioned and it looks gray and whatever, if you look at it in the SAP GUI. But another reason is the whole offerings of SAP are complicated because they are enterprisey. That's fine. That's where their core is. But SAP also needs to find a way to offer that kind of stuff, that cool technology which they have, in a different way to young talents and outsiders. So the outsiders from outside of the SAP ecosystem, the fanboys like me, for example.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if it's a programming language issue. I think it's a general lack of business understanding issue. Because to build business,
Yeah. It's not. It's for sure not
business.
a programming language issue. For sure not. No.
Yeah, and then I think opening up the platform is always a nice thing, always a dream, but there's so many things SAP needs to do first. So I think we won't see like a general purpose pass coming from SAP, right? It will be and should be much better integrated into their cloud partners, right? I fully expect that. I expect SAP to give me a single pane of glass, right? I see Martin Fischer is logged in my North America ERP system and my European HR system. Why is that the case? And those are running on different cloud providers. I expect SAP to provide all that. And I think that will keep Jürgen Mueller and his team busy for the next 2-3 years.
That's for sure. I wouldn't like to see a general purpose platform, but maybe a general business purpose platform. That's the ambition SAP should have.
Yeah, certainly. Well, I think that one they have, right, from ERP perspective, and from the additional things from the six sisters, right?
But at the moment they are too focused on their own product in this regard.
In general, what do you mean of general then?
So just offering services which I can consume.
They started that, right? So APIs, there was a currency API, right, some time ago.
Yeah.
Right?
There are two examples: currency conversion and tax handling.
Right.
But stuff like that.
Because they weren't cloud-based, right? I need to be cloud-based to offer an API where the user pays by use, but I don't pay for it to be there and from a server. So they have to get cloud-based, public cloud-based, and then they can offer those APIs. And the monetization of the APIs is super interesting, super important for customers who want to be consistent. Like, say, I want to Salesforce, we talked about them so much, I want to be consistent for my currency exchange rate in Salesforce as well. So I call one SAP currency exchange rate service, and it's consistent.
I mean, it would be brilliant to have that general purpose APIs from SAP, and every developer, no matter on which platform, just says, okay, if I need that business functionality, when there are many like the tax handling stuff or currency conversion, which are just bad in other.
Or who does what, who works for who, if you want to expose it. Is this a customer? What's the order status? What is the payment status? Do I have a credit, not have a credit? There's so much. The challenge is, right, Jürgen's team, Müller's team has to provide the infrastructure for that. And then it has to be a priority for the application developers to provide this, right? Because SAP has been long time in this like business function calls, what it was, BAPIs, right? BAPI catalog, right? Why did it never fly? Not because it wasn't a bad idea, but because other priorities were more important to get done. Right?
But did you ever look at the interfaces they designed at that time?
But it's not the problem of the interface. People would have taken a bad interface to get this done, right? So there's no question in my view about it. The problem is to maintain APIs if you're busy and have other things, right? And API monetization, at least at the beginning, is very, very little, very, very small compared to my customer yelling, I have to go live and do stuff and so on. Right, so and that's the problem of limited resources, right? And this is why I think across the industry, API strategies have not taken off. Okay, I need to run in 2 minutes or so. Anything else important?
Well, I think we covered pretty much everything I had on my list, which I sent to you yesterday.
Oh, 1/3 of Q4 is over, right? For SAP, the most important quarter ever. You're in Germany. Do you hear anything? It's going easy, going bad, or is it too early to say?
I think, at least what I hear, too early to say. So the situation changed a bit the last 2 weeks with that partly shut down or lockdown light, or however you want to call it. I think today is also a day, today is the decision-making day, and tomorrow we will see the result in the country you live right now. So that might also have some economic consequences, quite sure. For the listeners who don't know when we record that, today is election day in the States.
November,
So so we will see what's going on. It's in German we would say the Glaskugel.
The glass bowl, the fairy, the magic dust bowl, whatever. I know what you mean. I don't know the English proper words either. Perfect. Hey, This is always fun, Martin. I always do think we do a quarterly thing on this, right? I think always great conversation. Always here to hear from you from the trenches, being an implementer, and me being with my head in the cloud on the analyst side here. So this is always fun for me to do, and always a reality check. Well,
yeah, thanks for me. Thanks to you. It was great again, and I also love our conversations.
Always a pleasure. Good to see you. Stay healthy.
You too. Bye-bye.